Bom dia, Portugal!
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumpers.
Hola, bon dia, Carl Munson here with Good Morning Portugal show, a live stream and the podcast. I'll get around to you soon, podcast listeners. So I went on the to the podcast platform Spreaker last night and realized I hadn't uploaded the most recent podcast. Of course, what we do is take the soundtrack of the live stream and pump it up to the internet on the Spreaker platform. And I haven't done that since last Thursday. It's been a busy few days, hence my rather disheveled look, which I'll apologize for in advance now. I'm really looking like I don't have an owner. Mrs. Emma's suggested that I have a shave and get rid of this beard for the summer, which I am contemplating. So I may suddenly one morning look entirely different. And you'll be saying, Carl, have you done something to your hair? What is it about you that's changed? So the beard might be coming off for the summer. I have big capital letters envy. Yeah, I know. But feel free if you want to start shouting in the comments this morning. Please do. Well, of course, we're going to be possibly. I mean, I pitch an idea to the Portugeeza, and sometimes we never even talk about the things that we schedule because we get distracted and have a lot of fun. This morning, we may well be talking about politics and conspiracy theories. So you might like to start capitalizing and shouting right away as a way of practicing before the conversation about politics and conspiracy theories, which I know won't be for everybody this morning, but it was just something that came up in a to and fro with the Portugeeza last night when we were considering what we might speak about. And we'll have a little preview of his YouTube channel. So he creates such a wonderful range of content on his YouTube channel. And has such a unique worldview that he's such a great combination. And I really enjoy speaking to him on this monthly schedule that we have. And we had such a great time last time. Was last time he was on, did he start playing his ukulele? I think he might have done. But that's the sort of thing that can break out here on the Good Morning Portugal show when the Portugeeza joins us. And we may well touch on conspiracy theories and politics this morning. Not for everybody I know, but for those who might appreciate a bit of a discussion about such subjects. And in our usual light-hearted, let's not get too serious about it, but yeah, let's see where we can go with that. And Jackie straight in with a conspiracy theory is just truth 6 months early these days. Yes, and look, excellent. And rather not, my conspiracy theory is that there is some secret handshake or hazing ritual you have to undergo, is that there is some secret handshake or hazing ritual you have to undergo in order to have the privilege of greeting in all caps. I can see that you're not completely comfortable here, João Ernesto, with shouting in the chat in the same way that James is doing. I mean, James, the Mindful Migration Monday man, mild-mannered until Nuno appears and is, oh, Nuno, then Pete, to James. Look at him go. Great to have you here this morning, Nuno. Good morning, dear and amazing community. Isn't that lovely? And I completely agree with him in his assessment there. I was thinking last night, we had a lovely conversation, Nuno and I, last evening. And I was thinking, you know, we've had a number of efforts at branding and describing, strap-lining the Good Morning Portugal and the Portugal Club endeavour. And last night, what came to mind is like your new family in Portugal. That's us, isn't it? We are your new. Well, for whatever family means to people. But really, there are a lot of social media sites, organizations now that help people with the mechanics of moving to Portugal. And as you know, I'm closely aligned with Expats Portugal. And tonight, for example, we'll have a webinar on moving your stuff over, the importance of smooth integration in Portugal. And that revolves around a conversation I'll be having with somebody from Global International Relocation. I think what we do well for me to understand and assess this, because I have my ideas about what Good Morning Portugal is about and the Portugal Club, but it just hit me last night. It's like a family, isn't it? And I mean that in the broadest sense. It's not a family as in sort of the mob, or maybe it is in some ways. But it's not idyllic. It's not the Waltons. Okay, it's not the Waltons, is it? Where everybody's nice to each other all the time, and it's like some unrealistic, strange family stereotype idea. This is a family in which people don't necessarily need to agree with each other, have very different views, different lifestyles. And when it comes to it, and this is what happened yesterday, me and Mrs. M were driving along, and I noticed somebody had parked up on the street. The hazard warning lights were on. Okay, I see what's happening here. An old fella had tripped, I think, and he was sat on the street, leant against a wall, and a couple of ladies were with him, and he'd obviously had a little bit of a trip. I slowed down, in the best Portuguese I could muster. Do you need any help? And the young lady of the two, who was completely all over the situation, said, no, obrigado, and off we went. And it's those moments, isn't it? That's those moments where we define our humanity. And I think that's what we're like here, I think, where life goes on, people live their different lives. And if anyone needs anything, we are there. And more so, I hope, as we get to know each other, as we have a familiarity that develops, new people coming into the family, the old timers, the Pete Bleaches, the Jameses, the Coach Turners, the T Ducks, people who've been here for a long time are the elders of that family. And there are newbies coming along as well. And it's not about everybody thinking the same thing or behaving in the same way. It's about our camaraderie and support for each other. So I found that very helpful last night. Your new family in Portugal, the Portugal Club, the Good Morning Portugal community, the Gumpers, aka the Gumpers, the Riot of Gumpers. So I found that quite useful, and I wonder what you think about that. But yeah, I'll agree with you here, Nuno. Good morning, dear and amazing community. I know it's I like to get up for it first thing in the morning, that's for sure. Yes, and the opening meme, part of the morning ritual. I mean, this show is part of my morning routine and ritual. Another part of it is this, and that's pretty much how I got kidnapped. This is somebody, I think this is a coffee related meme, really, isn't it? And this is from Twitter. Somebody following their cups of coffee in the morning and then trapped in a great big crate. I think I would follow my cup of tea into a kidnap situation. So important is it to me in the mornings. Are you a tea or a coffee person, or neither? Do let me know. I remember when I first came to Portugal, the chap I stayed with a long time ago, 17 years ago now, I think it was, he liked to go to his allotment and get some poppy heads from the garden and then stick them in the juicer. And he liked to have a juice first thing in the morning, poppy juice. Yes, he really did. It was quite something, a bit of an eye-opener there. Right, what are we doing this morning? Okay, so yeah, we're talking to the Portugeeza later on. Actually, I didn't tell him when to join. Okay, I just need to send a quick message to the... I've got to send a message to the Portugeeza because I wasn't clear with him whether I wanted him at 9 or 9:30. So I'm going to say join as soon as you like after 9. And I'd better give him the link for doing that as well. I don't know. That might be polite and practically useful as well. So let me just send that over to him as well. Fantastic. Okay, that's all done, and we'll chat with him. And I really don't know where the conversation will go when he joins us about politics and conspiracy theories. And already, I think we've got James might not be staying with us for that this morning. I think we have a vomit emoji at the mere mention of politics. I don't think we're going to be trying to decide, come to decisions about what anyone should be thinking or doing in society. The function of politics. What's the right politics? I don't think that's not a sensible conversation to be having, is it? What was interesting with my conversation that I was having with the Portugeeza ahead of the show today is how politics has changed. You know how people are in relation to politics. How politics is now something very different, perhaps to what it was, and how the parties, you know, how the left have changed and how the right have changed. Have the right changed? Have the left changed? To me, it seems like they have, and I'll be putting that as my point of view. I won't be putting it as something that other people should agree with. God forbid. You know, it'll be just reflections on how things are at the moment. And maybe, you know, maybe whether that we could consider whether that is useful, functional, whatever, and put in points of view and opinions. But we don't need to get our panties in a bunch, do we, about who's right. And I also know that it's the you know, there's certain hot button subjects, and we got two of them this morning: politics and conspiracy theories. That whereby people can't. There comes a point in the conversation where people can't communicate rationally or calmly anymore because they've been triggered or activated by something in there. And again, it comes back to having a decent family or community around you, doesn't it? It's like, okay, time out. You know, I've actually, sorry, I can't talk anymore because this is for some reason, and I'll take a look at this at my leisure, and probably offline. I got completely enraged and crazed by the conversation. And it's probably nothing to do with the conversation or what's being spoken about. It's triggered something else. And I'll have a look at that a bit later on. You know, maybe that's something we could do. The extended family intends to be the support network we all could need sometime. Absolutely, Nuno. And Bondi Alegria Gumpers from Tito. I need to do these in order, don't I? Bondi Alegria Gumpers. I'm here. Just a bit slow today. Me too, Tito. Good to see you yesterday, by the way, and a lovely meetup yesterday. Not that I was there for all of it, but I wanted to pop in, say hi to some new people in the town, and see a few of our old familiar faces as well. And I was able to take this picture yesterday, which I think is was it you, Nuno, was telling me that the cold weather? I say cold, colder weather is coming back again. We're up and down, up and down. And it will change again next week. So a few summer false starts already, I would say, and another one perhaps next week. But this is what happened in my last, it will be 72 hours now. But I went away on the 8th, on the 7th of May, on the picture you can see on the right there, me and Colin touching snow, not a euphemism, actually touching snow in Portugal. For me, the first time. I'd never had a handful of snow in Portugal. It's really nice and bright and sunny up there, and snow still on the ground at that altitude of 1,800 meters, something like that. That's the 7th of May on the right. 8th of May yesterday, 28 degrees in San Martin. It might have been hotter. It felt like it under the Palmeira Conservatory deck yesterday when that sun's coming through the plastic through the PVC window. It really heats up in there. I know people, I was hoping for a swim in the sea. I didn't get around to it. I had a bit of a busy afternoon. Well, I had a bit of a busy day generally. But unfortunately, I was looking forward to a plunge into the sea yesterday, which would have been possible. So snow on the 7th, warm sea, warm skies, warm beach, a hot beach yesterday in San Martin de Porto on the 8th of May. Quite extraordinary. And further changes to come. You see, there's a conspiracy theory, or not even a conspiracy theory. I mean, this is the problem, isn't it? When you start off talking about conspiracy theories, that immediately sets the context in a certain way. I mean, my definition of a conspiracy theory is something that is something that's difficult to talk about. That's how it occurs to me. And the accusation. It's a slur, isn't it, to be called a conspiracy theorist? But it's like it marks a point in the conversation where the person calling you a conspiracy theorist is out of genuine interest, or has become frustrated, or is uncomfortable and needs to shut it down. It's like I think for me, it's like being a teenager. If someone calls me a conspiracy theorist, it's like, this is like being 15 again, when you want to talk about something that's off limits in the family home. Anyway, more on that later on. Let's make sure we've said good morning to everybody this morning. Digo, bon dia, Carl and Gumpers. Very uncomfortable night at 12 degrees, tossing and turning in the heat where you hit Digo. It'll be a stunning 19 degrees today. And Springsteen playing Belfast. Outdoor gig to 40,000 fans. What must that be like to play in front of 40,000 fans? Bon dia, Digo, from me and the Gumpers, and James there especially. Bon dia, Gumpers, says James. Feliz quinta a todos. Tudo bem? Muito bem, obrigado. Philomena's with us tomorrow, and we'll be singing. We'll be singing a children's song. So make sure you gargle tomorrow, salt, honey, whatever it is that gets your vocal cords in good order. We'll be singing. We'll be learning Portuguese by singing a children's song tomorrow. Can't wait. We sang in the Loja de Mestre André, didn't we? Some time ago. We'll be singing a different song tomorrow. Come with good voice and an open heart, and sing like no one's listening. I know I do. A Minister of Home Affairs and I going to Belfast show, but health reasons we returned the other 3 Irish concert tickets. We'll be dancing in the dark tonight. I'll have a wonderful time, you and Kathy. He's still doing 3 hours plus for every concert. And you had tickets for 4 concerts, did you? Amazing. Right. A mindful moment then. Right, Gumper Dust on you for this mindful moment. Mindfulness is simply being aware of what is happening right now without wishing it were different. That might be useful later on this morning. Enjoying the pleasant without holding on when it changes, which it will. We know this, don't we? Being with the unpleasant without fearing it will always be this way, which it won't. Very good. James Barrage there, from one James to another. And a mindful dad, Jake. You come from dust and you will return to dust. That's why I don't dust. It could be someone I know. Very good. Coach Turner, thank you very much. Now, a little bit of video to cue this up. And Pete, thank you so much for your sunrise pictures. Again, not a euphemism. It's some absolute morning glory from Pete this morning. Got a video and we've got some lovely pictures. We'll share those with you in just a moment as well. Let's go to the Burrell Woolen Mill, shall we, for a moment? That was a little bit shorter than I imagined. It's another quick blast of the Burrell textile mill. Sounds like a dangerous place, doesn't it? It takes us right back to the beginnings of the Industrial Revolution. Quite extraordinary. A wonderful day yesterday driving from Serra da Estrela to Bragança. We visited the Burrell Woolen Mill in Manteigas, watching their amazing fabrics being produced. And then we saw a little preview of the factory right there. Now, it's interesting. It's helping this fall into place for me. You wonder why sometimes, there's a very fancy Michelin restaurant or a 5-star hotel or something of that order. And quite often it seems in Portugal, it's connected to a successful company. Now, I may or may not be right on this. And when has that ever stopped me from saying something? But in this instance, I'm thinking that Burrell Textile Empire, they may also own the wonderful 5-star panoramic hotel experience that I spoke about as well. Was that only yesterday? I think it was, wasn't it? The Casa de San Lorenzo Burrell Panorama Hotel. I cannot recommend this enough to you. It's such a fantastic experience. We had some lovely coffee and soda pop looking out over the landscape. I've got a feeling that what happens with a wealthy Portuguese company is they channel some of their profits into the development of such wonderful luxury facilities where they can entertain clients and buyers from around the world, that sort of thing. Maybe that's what's been going on in the development of that and other hotels around the country. Thank you very much, Coach Turner, for that. That's Burrell Manteigas, where there was the most sophisticated contraflow system I've ever seen in my life as you come into Manteigas as well. So that's maybe to put on your list. Oh, and I've got the golden rules of retirement travel from Condé Nast. We might look at a few of those tips as well. The golden rules of retirement travel. Some of them are good, like take your own toilet paper. Really? To me, that's not one of the best ones, but I just thought that was funny. Take a ride on the hop off bus. You try saying it. And BYOTP, bring your own toilet paper. You see, you don't need to in Portugal. We've got all those bidets everywhere, haven't we? Anyway, Coach Turner's been to the Burrell Woolen Mill and then on to Villanova de Foz to the Archaeological Museum. I'll have to ask Philomena how to say that. Oh, and talking of Philomena, she has been promoting the medieval festival at Penella Castle. That's the 18th and 19th. I'm sure you'll see her in medieval garb if you go to that. Great castle, really good. Penella's such a lovely place to go. Recommend that to you. Coach Turner then on to Villanova de Foz. Well worth a look if you're in the area. Arrived in Bragança and met up with Bob and Viv. Yes, Gumpers, meeting Gumpers. Love that. Before having one of the best meals of my life. Well, flipping heck, tell us more. One of the best meals of your life here in Portugal. What was it? Small story. Oh, look at him. He's telling us he's had the best meal of his life and then goes off on a tangent immediately. As we pulled into the museum car park, the first car we saw was an old Porsche 356. So, of course, I had to park next to it very carefully. The owners, a Swiss couple, were just leaving. So, of course, we got talking. And they were heading to Estoril, where there is a big annual meeting of 356 owners at the Palacio Hotel. If you're in the area, go and look. It'll be amazing. It will, won't it? And anyway, the previous night they had stayed. This is like turning into a Ronnie Corbett anecdote here, Coach. Anyway, the previous night they had stayed at the Posada that we're in and recommended the restaurant, though warned us it was a long night, and so it proved. 4 hours. However, how weird was that? So it was one of the best meals you've had, and a 4-hour meal as well. Is that right, or am I mixing up anecdotes there? Hold on a minute. I just need to get a flight. Missed him. God Squad tip of the day. We've had 3 drills then. Moving on to the God Squad tip of the day. We've had 3 drills for improving your running, focusing on the legs. Today, a simple exercise for the arms. You often see runners swinging their arms across their chest, left and right. I do. I thought they were performing some sort of religious ritual. The problem with this is that the rest of the body, particularly the hips, have to counter the movement affecting the running gait. So while standing, practice swinging your arms forwards and backwards. Concentrate on the movement of your elbows, ensuring their movement is in a straight line. It can help if you do this in front of a mirror. Keep your head and shoulders still while the arms move, and don't punch the mirror. I'm adding that, not the coach. Over time, your technique will improve. I'm not going to try that here. Punch the camera over. Not only that, but in stopping the twisting movement, you will be less prone to injury. Okay. Pete, whose video and pics we'll go to in just a moment, says, give me weight training or just honest manual labor over running anyway. Or any day that might be. I have seen so many injuries from jogging. It depends so much on body shape. For the more slight among us, running is fine. But for anyone with a larger frame, it results in jogger's nipple. You can get a sports bra, I suspect, with an integral anti-friction technology to go in there, Pete, and some awful knee and ankle destruction. Okay, fair enough. Bon dia, Nuno, tudo bem? Yes, Nuno was in, of course, with his lovely greeting. Morning, dear and amazing community. Let's just park up in the lay-by of the forward trajectory of the Good Morning Portugal show and take a look at some of Pete's pictures this morning. Some morning glory from Pete. I think that's one of yours, Pete. We've had some incredible pictures coming in just recently of dawns here in Portugal. Thank you to all of you. They're all mixed up now, so I don't know whose is whose with this. And we've got a fabulous video from you as well, Pete, as well. So I'm going to give that a spin. And thank you so much for your beautiful dawn imagery this morning. Let's find that video that you sent in this morning and take a moment with you in the central Portuguese countryside this morning. It's okay. The show isn't broken. We're still here, but we're taking in this beautiful Fundão sunrise this morning. So beautiful. Thank you, Peter. Such stillness, such peace. How lovely. The solar charging ports getting ready for the day there as well. What's that? Is that a creature on the ground there? What is that, Pete? Beyond the charging barn. Such idyllic peace. Thank you so much, Pete, for that. Absolutely beautiful. Let's see who else is here this morning. Bom dia, Portugal from João Ernesto, of course, as well. Oh, he's gone for it. He's gone for the big capital thing. Wow. General Purpose is here. Let's see what General Purpose has to say this morning. Sounds like one of those names. So Bom dia, Gumpers from Jackie, by the way, as well. And, well, hey, Portugeeza joining us today. Now, that will make my day better after my dog decided to pee on my bed Oh, I'm not amused by the little swine. You're talking about Portugeeza or the dog there? And I have a beard just like yours. It's coming off for the summer, but it's weird every time. Hello from the Algarve. Hi, General Purpose. Sorry, I thought with a play on words like that, you were one of our occasional visitors with a bit of mischief. Maybe you still are. But isn't it weird? What I don't like about shaving off my beard is I look like one of those sort of fresh-faced Tory MPs with quite. I look like David Cameron, and that's not a look I aspire to, quite frankly. I'm a bit reluctant to do it. Might leave a little bit of stubble. Bon dia, everyone, from Michael Barton as well. The Naunu also in this morning. Good morning to you. How are you? Bon dia todos. And yes, conspiracy theories. So we may well be talking about them if I can blooming say it. Let us know what your favourites are, of course, and anything you want to talk about in an open-minded way. I've got one that I want to talk about in an open-minded way. A conspiracy theory is just truth 6 months early these days. Used to be, the lead time used to be a bit longer. And take it from me, who interviewed David Icke back in 1994. Take advantage of this hot day because some cold is expected next week. There you go. No, yeah, it was you, wasn't it, talking about that? Very interesting. So yes, make the most. Well, that's good advice anyway, isn't it? To make the most of this day, especially if it's a hot one. Looks like cooler weather is coming, according to Nuno, who is a great man of the outdoors. I think he's a reliable source when it comes to the weather. Is there any checklist to follow before moving to Portugal once you've got your visa? New SIM card in Portugal, international roaming, an old one, taking care of bank accounts. It's like AI here, the Nana. You only have to ask a question like that, and people will pour forth their ideas in real time, I suspect. They might not, but they might also. So what did you do? Let's help the Nana if we can. Once you've got your visa, what did you do? Obviously, there are a few things you'll have taken care of already in terms of your accommodation, insurance, NIF number, bank account. But what did you do after that? A phone's quite a good idea, but I'd have thought a few people have got their phones in order, their Portuguese phone in order, because they're making calls before that, but maybe not. Let's see what we can come up with for you this morning. We've got the Dream Team tonight at 9 as well, of course. No, and I can put that to them too. The extended family intends to be the network support we could all need sometimes. Absolutely. You've nailed it right there, Nunu. Everyone hit the like button. I'm sure it would help this channel. And thank you to all the new, real surge in subscribers just recently. So thank you if you're one of those new subscribers, or if you've been watching for ages and you only just recently decided to subscribe. Thank you. Definite uptick. The view times generally ticking along nicely, same as usual, but an upsurge for sure in subscribers. We're nearly up to 2,300 subscribers. So thank you to each and every one of you. And of course, thank you to everybody who supports the Good Morning Portugal show and Portugal Club. EU vote coming up, says Erica K. I think you've been busy over the Portugal Club this morning, Erica. We don't have to argue who's right because I am. There you go. Thank you, James. Thank you for sorting that out. And bon dia, briefly, lots of planting out this morning to do. There you go. Not so deep thought from João Ernesto. How can it be that a horse with a horn is mythical, yet a leopard, moose, camel with a 40-foot neck is a real thing? So true. However, the more you think about a giraffe or see one, the more infeasible and fantastical it is. I mean, we've grown up with them, haven't we? Little plastic giraffes, pictures in books as kids. But when you see it, and when you step out of your, I don't know, it's the prejudice, isn't it? It's the comfort zone that you've created around giraffes. Like, well, that's a giraffe. It's got a long neck and spots and stuff. But if you suspend what you already think you know about giraffes, just like that, it is a leopard, moose, camel with a 40-foot neck. Extraordinary beasts, aren't they? If you want to see mystical animals, try the Horniman Museum. I thought that was in Coimbra. The Horniman Museum in Greenwich. Explorers brought back animal skins from all over the world. Can you imagine? Wow, what a beautiful creature. Let's kill it and take it home. Humans, what are we like? Wow, look at it. It's so beautiful in its natural environment. Kill it! Skin it and take it home. Carl, this strange object over Belfast in the last 5 days is making people happy. It's a conspiracy theory, Deagle. I think it's called the sun, mate. It's hard to describe. It's never seen before. It's yellow. Any idea what it is? It's called the sun. We have it quite a lot here in Portugal, but don't want to rub it in. But yeah. But the stuffers had what? Oh, the people stuffing skins. They had no idea what they looked like. So you get some that's amazing, isn't it? A taxidermist in London years ago, 100 years ago, maybe 150 years ago, maybe 200 years ago. You're just going about your business, dogs, cats, rabbits, maybe occasionally little mice tableau. And some cocky so-and-so comes in, see what you can do with that. Well, I've never seen anything like it. Stripes and spots and horns in all the wrong places. Incredible. Come back next week. I'll have it done on Thursday, but it'll cost you 3 farthings. Wow, that's expensive. Well, it's a very difficult specialist job, stuffing whatever this is. And you turn up. So I don't think it looked like that. When I killed it in the Kalahari, it didn't quite look like that. But okay, fair enough. Here's your 3 farthings. We're going to stick it in a museum now. Brilliant, Pete. Thank you. The term conspiracy theory, Portuguese is limbering up. He's just in time for this. The term conspiracy theory was first popularized by the philosopher Sir Karl Popper in the 1950s. Conspiracy theories have had a bad reputation. He's pointing to his mug. To call a conspiracy theory is to imply that it is false and that the people who believe it or who would like to investigate it are irrational. Yes, it's a put down. Popper is really interesting, a Catholic Big Bang theorist. Yes, okay, another conspiracy theory possibly. I prefer science fiction to conspiracy theories. It has a better chance of coming true. That's what I will say as I reply to people who call me that then. I'm merely a fiction scientist. Numerical conspiracy theory, multiply 111 by 111 and you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, thank you, João Ernesto, for that. I heard a rumor there's a Welsh prodigy en route to Portugal to force feed chocolate and sweets to nice people. Good sweets, though. That's a conspiracy theory we can all get with, I think. Let's give him a nice big round of applause because he really should be in on this conversation this morning, having inspired it to a great degree. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you at great expense. Here he is. The Portugeeza. Whoa!
Bom dia, bom dia. I inspired a conversation about conspiracy theories. Really?
So did. Well, we were toing and froing, weren't we, last night? And I thought, okay, let's talk about politics and conspiracy theories. Both.
Yeah.
I mean, as if each of those wasn't bad enough, we're going to maybe do it both together. However, as sometimes happens, Tony, we promote, or I promote, an idea that we might talk about. And we don't even go there, don't even touch it. We get completely distracted and don't even talk about it at all. So that could happen this morning, depending on people.
Yeah. I normally have a little post-it list that I get maybe one. We never get there.
I see. I thought you meant of your current favorite conspiracy theories are all on a tidy little post-it note.
Chemtrails. Oh God, yeah, chemtrails.
Yeah, no, I want to talk about chemtrails this morning. I really do. And not yet though, because of course it would be rude not to ask you how you are or which Portuguese football team you support, because that's another thread this morning. So how are you, my friend? How's it going?
I'm very, very well. Thank you for asking. And you, sir?
Yeah, very good. Lovely. Well, I've been over your way. Went up to Serra Estrela, and I can understand why you love riding your motorbike up there.
Oh, it's awesome, right? It's so beautiful. Yeah, and I saw you're at Quinta in Viseu.
That's right.
It's about an hour north of us. Yeah.
Oh, that was amazing.
An hour north of us.
Yeah. And there were a few conversations up there, which I partly as well have sponsored, or not sponsored, but inspired this conversation this morning.
It's funny though you just said the football, because I was just it's an idea I had for like a lot of people on my YouTube channel say to me, where are you from? Because I normally say I'm British, but a lot of people can hear the Australian
very much so this morning
accent. Yeah. And if I'm with a group of Aussies, believe me, mate, it really shines through. And what it is for someone like me, and I suspect many of our viewers. Do you like that? You like the way I just
we are so show business, aren't we?
So many of our viewers probably have the same experience. Whereas if you almost dread the question, "Where are you from?" Because my family are from the north of England, but I was born in Lambeth. You know?
Oh, really? Lambeth Walk?
Right. Well, apparently, obviously I've got no memory of this, but apparently my family thought it was very funny because when I was a little kid, apparently I had a real South London
Did you? Portugeeza. So this is where the geezer from
Portugeeza,
Portuguese comes
Portugeeza. But then my family emigrated to Australia on the I think I can't remember if it was £20 or £50 bomb scheme or something.
Really,
anyway.
you were part of that? How wonderful!
Yeah, so I mean, I can remember getting to Australia. We actually arrived on a ship, and I mean, I'm not that old. I know you what sort of image. It was a proper ship, not a convict ship. But
thank you for clearing that up. In fact, you had did you ride onto the liner on a penny farthing with a top hat on? The scene is quite beautiful.
Yeah, probably more like a flat cap. But anyway, they what's the word? So I've never had a feeling of when I say I'm British, it's just kind of a shortcut. It's a convenient answer.
Yeah,
because saying, well, you know, I was born in South London, but my family are from the north of England, but I went to school in Australia. You know what I mean? It's just who's interested in that? You know what I mean? It's like asking somebody how you are and they start telling you about their gammy leg or something. You know what I mean? You're like, oh yeah, I wasn't really interested, mate. Come on.
And now Portugal, you have to add Portugal to that whole.
Yeah. But it got me thinking about this problem I've sort of had all my life, because for some reason I've never been interested in team sports except playing them. I like to play teams. I like to play rugby.
Yeah.
But I'm not interested in following teams. I've just never had an interest in it. And so I'll have this thing where I'll be at the pub or something, and my mate will go, well, you'd be happy then, wouldn't you? And I'll be like, oh, go on, what's happened? Either England or Australia have won the cricket, the rugby, or something, and I don't know, and I'm supposed to know.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And and I don't care. And do you know what I mean? I've got no allegiance to either side, so I don't know what they're talking about, and I have to think, oh God, who's won? You know, and why am I supposed to be happy? Why did it affect me? You know, and
the Olympics are coming up, of course, as well, where you can be following any number of Olympic teams: Portugal, England, possibly Australia. Couldn't you?
Well, you know, I used to work for the European Broadcasting Union. I've mentioned it before on the show. And
I don't remember that. The EBU.
The EBU. Well, basically how it works, right? I'm sure most of our lovely viewers understand this, but most international sports events are actually media events, okay?
Tell me it isn't so.
Oh, well, anyway, so how it works is every country that gets the Olympic Games. So let's say Australia gets the Olympic Games, as they did, which was my first Olympic Games as a employee.
Wow.
What happens is that country becomes what's called the host broadcaster. Okay.
Yes.
So they and all big events, whether they're sports or whatever, have this concept of the host broadcaster, right? And they have obviously all the best positions to take videos and do interviews or whatever, and then they sell rights to broadcasters from around the world. Okay, so the EBU is basically a club of all the big European broadcasters, and then what we do is we support them to bulk purchase media rights. So it could be anything from a camera position on the field of play to a commentary position, you know, all this kind of thing. And so what was interesting is I've actually been living in different countries as it progressed. So, for example, in Sydney, I was living in Sydney. And then what was the next one after Sydney? Salt Lake City. I think I was living in the UK. And then the one after that, Athens. I can't remember. You know what I mean? So each time I've kind of made a joke about which. So I supported Sweden in one of them, you know, because I was living in Sweden. So each time I've changed my
fair weather, perhaps, or diplomatic allegiances. Perhaps.
Yeah. Well, I always say, well, I can hedge my bets, right? Because if Britain win, I can be happy. If Australia win, I can be happy. If Sweden win, I can be happy, because I've lived and been resident in all those countries.
And you might say with the Olympics, it's about wanting to see the best person, the best Olympian win. It's not. It might transcend national. Predictions, is that the right word? And prejudices. It's about supremacy in athleticism, isn't it?
It's meant to be. Yeah, it's meant to be. Yeah.
And what? Well, I mean, there's our first conspiracy theory, possibly this morning. What happened to the Olympics? And you're closely connected with this, with your history. I remember when I was a kid, and we'll talk in the same way about clouds soon as well. But when I were a lad, as your family might have said years ago, the Olympics, you would be hearing about the Olympics the year before. You'd buy a can of Coke, and it would say on it, wouldn't it, Olympics, next year, wherever it was going to be, and there'll be a little logo of the Olympics. Yeah. And then you'd go into a petrol station, and there will be a sticker collection or some tokens or something that your dad, whatever, he's filling up the car. Here's your Olympic stuff. And this would be a year out, wouldn't it, from the actual event? And there'll be the countdown would continue. And then on all the Saturday sports programs, there might be Olympic previews, and you might see a news story. This local Olympian is getting ready to go to the Olympics on the other side of the world. Normally he's a postman, but he's a javelin thrower. And all of this would be building up, wouldn't it? A year out. And we've got the Parisian Olympics happening in about 2 weeks or something. And I'm not hearing anything about that. What's going on?
Yeah. Well, the world's changed, hasn't it? I think all of this is... No, really, I think post-COVID, everything has changed. You don't hear about... I feel like everybody is... I don't know how to put it. It's kind of like, I feel it when I walk around the streets, even in Portugal. I notice that you don't see people out and kind of like... I don't know. I just think that it's like the shine has been taken off of everything somehow.
Oh, possibly, but not for us, right? We're going to keep flying the flag of shininess here.
Well, I mean, the thing is, once you've worked, once you've worked at a big sporting event, the shine is taken off a bit because you had to look behind the curtain. Yeah, I suppose.
Okay, all right.
But the Paris Olympics. God, I hadn't thought of it either. Because another thing that's happened to the EBU. I mean, look, when I first, when I was in Sydney, we had this operations room. And there were 3 guys who worked in a room called VTR, which is videotape recording.
No.
And there were two editors, right? You know what I'm talking about, Carl. They would actually be cutting tape with scissors and taping it together. Do you know what I mean? Right? Now listen,
pencils,
fast forward 10 years, that whole crew had been replaced by a hard disk that you could access from our intraweb.
It's a metaphor.
And I was the one who managed that intraweb. And then by London, I'd been replaced by an algorithm.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, I'd been replaced by some software. So my services were no longer required. Because my job, I was what they called an information officer. And my job was to...
That sounds quite chilling.
Information officer. Well, in a way, I was filtering information, but it was the idea was... I suppose it was a bit Orwellian when you think about it. But anyway, what it was obviously English is the sort of, the currency in the EBU. French is a close second, I suppose. But what I would do is I would kind of dumb down all the English so that all of our members could understand.
That's quite an imposition on everyone's consciousness, isn't it?
Yeah, but
I can't think of a better person to do it, though. By the way, I'm sure you were very.
Thank you. Yeah, I was very good at dumbing down English. Yeah, I was very good at that. The worst thing was, I used to joke about this because I'm an English teacher as well, and most English teachers. When I say English teacher, I mean English as a second language teacher, right?
Yeah.
So most English teachers will tell you that you have kind of in your head you can switch gears and speak in slower motion, depending on the level of your students, right? It's kind of comes automatically.
Yes.
But I remember after a big event like the Olympics, I could hear myself for weeks afterwards speaking really slowly and clearly, even to my friends in English, because when you work at the high pressure event like the Olympics, you're doing 20-hour days and it's extremely high pressure, and the whole time you're very conscious of information because you can tell someone something and it could be like £1 million mistake. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
So the pressure is absolutely unbelievable, So.
Well, I didn't know any of that about you, and that's fascinating. And possibly it does lean into our conspiracy theory conversation, doesn't it? And politics, of course, because
we'll find a way.
Well, I mean, it's not a big twist, is it? On what you're talking about? To be talking about manipulating him, or not manipulating necessarily.
Well, listen, Carl, you said this about what do they call them? Chemtrails, right?
Yes, yeah.
Now, for me, I've never really been that interested in conspiracy theories until like what happened for me. I think I've said this before to you, Carl. I don't know if we mentioned on the show, but I lived in Hong Kong for over a decade, and we actually left Hong Kong in 2020 in April. So right at the beginning of the worldwide, we got out of Hong Kong a couple of days later. Worldwide planes were grounded. You know what I mean? We got out on one of the last flights, 747. There was like 11 of us on a Virgin Atlantic flight, to Heathrow.
Yeah.
Not to Heathrow. It was like the zombie apocalypse, man. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But the thing about it was why this is kind of a kind of before and after thing for me was if you'd have asked me in 2019, middle of 2019, about the WHO, I said, World Health Organization, right? Yeah, I mean, as far as I know, they're an independent body and you could trust them. You could trust them, right?
Yes.
Okay. But then what happened was very interesting was because we have family in mainland China. So in Hong Kong, we all knew about what was happening in Wuhan. We knew that people were being sealed into their apartments. We knew that there was human-to-human transmission. We knew that the virus, I don't know if I'm still even allowed to say this 4 years later, but we knew
it
that
is interesting. Yeah, it is interesting because the kind of information lockdown seems to be over. So people are speaking quite openly about things that would have had your channel delisted before.
So at that time in Hong Kong, it was openly discussed that the virus had escaped from a lab.
Yeah,
that was openly discussed.
Right.
And it was known that there was human-to-human transmission. And yet we could also see, because in Hong Kong you also get the Western news, right? So we could also see that in the West, the WHO was saying things like there's no evidence of human-to-human transmission. And yet the whole city is on lockdown. People are being people are jumping off balconies. People are throwing their pets out of flat. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that was the first time I went, well, hang on a minute. This is
what's really going on.
This is the WHO. And they're literally telling lies. And also, if what they're saying is true, and this has been my thing through the whole thing, if what they're saying is true, why aren't they giving us why are they not giving us the correct information? If it really is, and I've seen a few things like that since, where people, I think, sometimes get twisted the wrong way. It was like, do you remember Boris Johnson having the party in his garden with the drinking the wine, and everyone's angry with him? And my thing at the time was I felt like everybody was missing the point. Everybody missed the point. It's not that they're having a party. It's that the people who have access to the most information aren't afraid to have a party.
Yes, well said.
You get me? And I just thought this. I thought everyone's been distracted by the, are we being petty for begrudging the country's busiest man a glass of wine on his birthday or whatever? And it's like, no, that's not the point. It's not the point. It's not the point. The people who have the most information aren't afraid.
Which must have come as quite a relief, right? That everybody went.
Why am I afraid? Because I was afraid at first. I didn't know what to do. I was just speaking to my sons about this last night because we chose not to have the vaccine. You know what I mean? And I'm in the middle. I remember at the time I felt like people in my family were shouting, "It's your duty to get the vaccine," and then I felt like other people on the other side were going, "They're going to put micro machines in you and magnetize your blood," you know what I mean? And I was just in the middle. I'm going, I don't know what to do. I'm scared, Yes. We were masked up and everything. I thought, I don't want my family to get it. But when I'm looking at the government's own statistics, on one hand, they're telling me I should be afraid, but on the other hand, it looks like me and my kids aren't actually at risk from this disease, according to their own numbers,
Well, that to me is why this is such a fascinating discussion, And I'm
an MMA guy. My kids had MMA. I'm not an anti-vaxxer.
Yeah.
my kids had the MMR jab. You know, I went along and did that, and I don't have any regrets about that. I'm sure there are risks, and there's risks to everything, but up until
No,
then,
there weren't. We were told there weren't any at all.
That was the other thing. We were being seen now. I don't know if you noticed the other day that AstraZeneca.
Yesterday, this is fascinating. This is fascinating. Right? Yesterday morning, Tony.
And they're trying to distract everyone, though, aren't they? They're trying to say, oh, yeah, everything's got a risk.
Well,
yeah,
I don't know.
But they said 100% safe. They said 100% safe.
This I do recall as a memory of safe and effective, etc. And it was fascinating yesterday with this, using this particular example. The AstraZeneca have pulled their COVID vaccine, as I understand it, and it was in the morning of yesterday. It was like they've acknowledged that they can cause blood clots, so they're being withdrawn. By the evening, AstraZeneca had withdrawn their COVID vaccine because it was a surplus to the market. It was a market decision, not a medical decision.
Yeah.
And this is a very fertile atmosphere in which what we're talking about, the conspiracy theory, can persist and proliferate and everybody gets what they need, don't they? So in the morning, some people in a community would have got the information they wanted to confirm their bias, and then by the evening, the other people got their confirmation bias fed, and still we don't really know why, do we? And that's why it might be, it might be useful to keep an open mind on such matters and just watch it. And we do have some of the best seats in the house at the moment to watch these sorts of things unfolding. You make it, and part of why this conversation is happening this morning, because the WHO have been on my radar. I had a conversation with someone this week who suggested I speak to somebody, a Portuguese gentleman who may be on the show at some point, who probably was like you a few years ago. World Health, you grow up with these organizations, don't you? Hear UN, NATO, WHO. You hear about these great global organizations, the Olympics. They're all part of the same world in which we grew up in, aren't they? Assuming that there are these organizations of the greater good and the collective vibe of humanity. And the WHO, for some people now, is an absolute sort of pariah of an organization. So much so that I found out this week that there was a representation to the Portuguese Parliament. And there's a Portuguese delegation going to Switzerland, I think, here. On Saturday, the 1st of June. I was unable to get this chap on the show. It would be an interesting conversation. They're going to Geneva, and they are lobbying against the WHO in light of some of what we've been talking about already this morning. And the new perception some people have about the WHO. They're objecting to the possible it's like a trans, and that's another word that might come into our conversation this morning, but trans as in transcendent legislation of the WHO to be able to undermine sovereign law to implement, and that's what was going on to some degree, wasn't it? People were looking towards the World Health Organization as an umbrella organization to say, look, tell us what to do to have a cohesive and a comprehensive and general approach to this for the good of humanity. And now that mandate, if you like, of do something that will be good for all of us, some people really fear that their aim isn't to do something that's good for all of us, but to just take power and do what they want to do under the auspices of that.
The funny thing was when we left Hong Kong, guys, you can look at I'm not just saying this as a plug for my YouTube channel, it's just we learn fun squeeze it all in. But I have made a few videos about how we ended up in Portugal. But it was a lump of things happened. There was Brexit, and we'd already thought we wanted to get into the EU because I highly value like my freedom of movement, let's say. And then but there'd been like the protests in Hong Kong, and I'd been sort of vocal about that, and then they brought in the NSL. So there was a few reasons to the national security law, and I was obviously in breach of that. And then COVID came along, and it was like, right, let's go. And I remember watching like China had the lockdown, and I remember people saying, "Oh, you could never do that in Europe," And then they did it in Italy. You remember in what part of Italy? I can't remember. In Berti, was it in Berti?
I can't remember, but I know what you know. Like I know the time you're talking about.
But they did it there, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe it. And then it was Spain was the next one. They locked the lockdown in Spain. And I said, oh, Britain will never have that, and then felt like dominoes. So and then when we got to Heathrow, because I have pals in the northeast of England, that was our objective to get, because we were aiming for the EU, but you remember all the borders were locked down, weren't they? You couldn't move anywhere in the EU. So we headed up to the northeast of England, and that was because I honestly believed that the country would dissolve into chaos at any moment with rioting and everything. Yeah. So I wanted to be in the northeast near my boys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I had with a crew of people who I knew, and we could band together. That's what I thought. What actually happened was everyone just stopped in and got drunk and watched Netflix.
And got paid by the government.
Got paid. That's how they did it. They paid it. And I remember saying to my friend even then, it was the first time I heard myself sort of speaking conspiratorial. I said to my friend John, I said, you know what they've done here, mate? You know what they've done here? No. What they've done here, they've kept all the men out of the pub, right? That's what they've done. They've kept us all out of the pub where we would start having
fermenting discussions,
naughty ideas.
Yeah.
And now they know that they can switch the country on and off whenever they want.
Yeah.
They can switch the country off, and the whole country will sit home, and they know the price they have to pay, about $1,000 a month. They know the price. Yeah. And they can print the money,
Yes, so, of course. Yeah.
So we can switch the country on and off at will. You know what I mean? Yeah. We can switch the country on. They can even control what you eat.
Which is why some people thought it was a test, right? Or like a test run.
Well, the thing is, this is probably where a lot of conspiracy theories come from, because some things look like a test. You can't be 100% sure, but it looked like a test.
Yes.
It certainly looked like a test. A virus that doesn't kill many people, but is being, the fear porn. Do you remember that's a new term from COVID? Fear porn. Fear porn,
right. Here's the YouTube channel you're referring to, your YouTube channel. And there's no harm in you plugging your own YouTube channel when you're on this show. Look, I mean, that's just probably one day's content right there that he's created. But great effort. And I urge you to subscribe to the Portugeeza for all sorts of information. And of course, with the conversation we're having here, one of the fascinating dynamics to me, of course, Tony, is somebody might have heard what you said and just completely now dismissed you. I am not going to subscribe to that. He's a conspiracy theorist. And that's the thing I'm most interested in here, is how that is used as a shutdown or a switch. It's another switch, isn't it? It's like, okay, well, I'm choosing not to listen anymore because he said something I don't like or I'm uncomfortable with. Therefore, I don't need to listen to another single thing he has to say, which I think is fascinating. Now, we've got lots of comments as well as you might imagine. So let's have a look through some of these. And I apologize. I was going to talk about which football team to support. Nunu has offered to come onto the show and talk about that. We'll do a special on that because we've only got about half an hour to go, and I'm sure we've got lots to talk about between now and 10. But we'll do a special on which Portuguese.
What I think the thing is, though, when you say about people and conspiracy theories, is conspiracy theorists. Like, I've met a few people who are like full-on conspiracy theorists. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I always say the problem is that it's kind of like, I always look at these things as like a road, and if you're on the road that thinks, oh, there's definitely something going on in the sky, because I remember when I was a kid, we used to have blue skies, but now after a couple of hours, the whole sky looks like one big cloud, and I watched it happen in real time.
Do you mean this? This is a pretty good summation of that phenomenon, isn't it? I mean, conspiracy theory or not, I can't imagine there are many people who don't agree that is what's happening.
Well,
why it's happening is another matter, isn't it?
Yeah. That's what I mean.
It's happening.
That's what I mean. There's are they? There's a difference between they're spraying. They're up there. As one of my pals will say, "Oh, they're up there poisoning us again."
Yeah.
And whatever, but that may or may not, or whatever. But the evidence of your own eyes, just walk out in the morning and watch them. They go backwards and forwards in a crosshatch, and eventually the whole sky is covered in cloud.
Yes.
That's just your own eyes. Whether that is just exhaust fumes or not, I don't know.
I don't know either.
But it's definitely happening, and I would like, on nice days, to have a blue sky. Thank you.
And also,
it didn't used to be like that. It didn't used to be like that,
And interestingly, because that's what people have, isn't it? As they kind of go to with this is, well, that's what it looked like when I was a kid. A, what it looks like now is B. It might start out like A, but then it goes to B, and then eventually the day looks like C.
Yeah.
And in the days of those top clouds in A, you had kind of 3 news channels, and you had information officers like Tony organizing things to make sure everybody heard the right message.
Yeah.
Now we've got thousands of news channels and niches of information. And you would think, wouldn't you, that answering a simple question of, well, why is that like that, would be a fairly straightforward thing with so many news channels. But actually, no, because of this conspiracy theory thing and the way that information gets manipulated and weaponized. I mean, we're talking about weaponization of information here, aren't we?
Yeah,
We are in an age where there's so much information.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to get to or maybe it isn't. Maybe I just find it difficult to get to the bottom of
I kind of tried to do a little bit of research on it, and I got worn out very quickly because I went on to Twitter, and they had what it was. Is he was showing he showed a map. This is a guy who believes that it's a that it's being done deliberately, right?
Yes.
So what would you call that? A pro
chemtrail,
pro chemtrail guy. Anyway, and he showed this map of these planes doing zigzags, but then underneath that was fact check, and they said no, this is a plane doing an aerial survey, and it was an official fact check. But then later on, someone pointed out, and they discovered that the guy who did the fact check is just some like random dude who doesn't know anything, who's just done a. Do you know what I mean? So it's almost like agents and double agents and straw men, and then you can't know. You can't know.
Yes, that's right. And the abundance of information has become the curse, not a blessing.
Yeah.
In this instance, which
also,
is so fascinating.
Covering the listen, for me, I honestly doubt they're poisoning us, right? Because it doesn't make any sense. 2 things. I think, well, why wouldn't you also be poisoned? But the other thing is, if you really believe that poisons come from the sky, I mean, I wouldn't go out during those times. But so I kind of think some people would stay there.
Just in the way that the those high ups partied in their garden, they knew.
Yeah. All right. Okay. But covering the covering the sky in cloud has to have some impact on the weather, I'd have thought.
Yes, of course.
I don't know that, but it seems logical to me.
Yeah, and you would think, wouldn't you? You know, in a sane world society, and be like, well, what's going on? What's really going on here?
Yeah,
is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? What's the rationale for it?
See, the problem, Carl, to kind of like serious, like say if you had someone on the show like, I don't know, Neil deGrasse Tyson or some famous scientist, or what's his name, Brian Cox, or one of the pop star kind of scientists, you know,
pop star scientists,
You couldn't, like, I would want to say to them, look, everything else aside, does it or does it not have an impact on the weather if you cover the whole of the sky in a fin? And you wouldn't be able to get to them. They would just keep putting you down. They would just keep going, it's not chemtrails, stop with the chemtrails.
I have noticed.
You know what I mean? You couldn't.
I find that especially repugnant.
Yeah.
I find that, and those 2 gentlemen you mentioned,
I
think would probably start the smugma level.
Oh my god, yeah,
would be fairly high in the room, and they would say, "Oh, really, Tony? If we could role play this for a moment?" It's like, "Oh, really? The science is settled on this, Tony.
Yeah.
I mean, what you're saying is just ridiculous, and everybody knows it apart from you, you silly little conspiracy theorist." And it's like, well, hold on a minute, you're supposed to be a really intelligent person. If that's the best you've got to come back at me with, that doesn't seem like an especially brilliant scientific mind at work there.
It's weird though, isn't it? You heard of the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? You know,
that just sounds to me like someone from a James Bond novel, you know.
But isn't the idea that the less intelligent you are, the more intelligent you think you are, or something? Like
well, that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
But I've thought about this a bit because, like, you know, every profession, like, okay, take for example. So I've always been very aware of this, right? But like, say, thinking about myself, right? I'm
always good personal experience.
I'm university educated. I've run my own businesses. I know how to do reasonably complex things.
A veritable Renaissance man.
And I'm a teacher. Okay, yes. and people have actually graded professions, and teachers on average have an IQ of 110 to 120. Yeah,
right. Yeah.
And which I think would put most teachers in like the top 20% of IQ, let's say. But definitely not the top 15 or 10, if that makes sense. So, and when I speak to other teachers, I feel like I'm speaking to people who are, you know what I mean? Same as when I worked in the media, I felt like, oh yeah, these are, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I have been in situations. So let's assume that that's accurate. Let's say I've got an IQ of 110, right? Would you agree? It seems reasonable.
I don't know. Does that make you a bit of a boffin at 110? I don't know the scale.
Not really. Maybe just a little bit above average.
Smarter than the average bear.
Yeah, but say not as smart in terms of IQ. Obviously, there's a lot more to intelligence than IQ.
Yeah.
But maybe not as intelligent as, say, an engineer or a lawyer or a doctor, right?
Yeah.
And then obviously nowhere near, these kind of like amazing scientists who do quantum whatevers and all that, right?
Well, okay, let's go with that. I mean, I've got my own reservations about it, but let's go with that for the
I get it, but the thing is, what it made me think about is like how I could easily manipulate someone who's got an IQ of 90. I'm sure I can. I'm sure I could, and I choose not to.
Well,
but people do, don't they?
It's what you do every day. You're a teacher.
But you see it online with the Nigerian scam. And I've met people. I've had friends. Like, for example, I remember in England, my friend opened the mail and she got this flyer out. And she said, "Oh, look, people want to buy my house. There's people in my area looking to buy houses just like mine and pay top money." Oh. And I'm like, what the. You know, or like on Facebook, my friends, these are perfectly reasonable people, and then they'll share something with you, going, "Hey, look here, if you click like under this, you'll get £1,000 gift voucher from Top."
Yeah, that's right. And then they forward it to you, don't they?
What's going on? What's going on? Yeah, you're my friend, but
this is the big conspiracy theory. Maybe intelligence isn't what we thought it was, or
but what worries me, Carl, maybe this is kind of maybe a paranoid thing, right? But what worries me is maybe there's a whole group of people who've got an IQ of 140 who are manipulating me in the way that I could manipulate people who got an IQ of 90 or 80.
Well, I think you're onto something here. And
maybe there's a whole layer of people who are so sophisticated.
Well, there is. I mean, there clearly is. From my point of view, looking at what you've just said, that is going on, and their way of adding to the gaslighting effect of managing your consciousness is when you stop being manipulatable, you get called a conspiracy theorist.
Right.
That's part of it, isn't it? It's like, the smug put down of the intellectual classes would be a way of bringing you back to what you should be thinking.
Yeah.
The intellectual scoff. It's a very interesting little tool. But anyway, we've got lots of comments here, and you say you've got to let me go through these. All right, is that a deal?
Go on then. Yeah, go on then.
You'll be further inspired, I think, by what's coming in. And sorry, everybody, we've been ignoring you. Tony and I have just been sat like two blokes in a pub. Which we have been allowed to, which we could do technically now, which we couldn't, as you mentioned before, when people were locked in their own homes. Okay, so the most amazing meal, there's all sorts of threads here. The most amazing meal I've had in Portugal is in a little place called Loki in Portugal. 12 courses with wine pairing, simply incredible, sounds wonderful, general purpose, whoever you are. Erica, you've been busy as well. Thank you for your comments, Erica. We'll come to a few of those as well. There's a growing trend of labeling something a conspiracy theory. This is one of them when it's a well-documented fact as well. Antonio, you're not very well. Love to you, Antonio. I'm not sure what's going on with you this morning because there's a lot of comments to deal with this morning. Donada, it was a lovely morning. That was the fox having a rest. Yes, thank you, Pete, for those lovely pictures. That was a fox sat by the charging port there. Antonio, my grandma prescribed a glass of water with a whole lemon squeeze. I think he's got a little bit of the old constipado. So yes, definitely get well soon there, Antonio. Sporting teams.
Or a knitting needle.
No, let's not go there right now. Go Algarve. Is this a conspiratorial comment? Yes, trying to influence people to support certain teams definitely is. Bon dia todos from the Squire. Morning, Squire. And I have a list now. Oh, these are things to do after you've got your visa. That's very helpful. Can you share it, please? No, you need to get on the Portugal Club. Don't want to have a facepalm moment once landed. Would you recommend that, Erica? Maybe you could post it up in the Portugal Club. Nanu can jump on there and get access to that. You will need a bank account before you receive the visa, of course. And Randy, good luck with the energy certificate guy later on. Maybe we'll bring climate change and energy certificates into things a bit later. And net zero. We haven't got time. It's 20 minutes to go. Bon dia from Pam, who has sent in a beautiful picture of it's Dia de Spiga, I believe, today. Do you know what that is, Tony?
Sorry?
Do you know what Dia de Spiga is? This is where you go
Yeah,
around.
day of the speaker.
Well done. But more specifically, you've got to go out and collect all these things. That's definitely going up on the Portugal Club. Thank you for popping in, Pam, for that. Thank you for a picture of your dinner, Coach Turner, one of the best meals you've had in your life. Another thread that's spiraling out of control in the chat this morning. We've also got, I heard that politics is a conspiracy theory. And wow, 10 likes. Two. An Australian and a Kiwi are taking the tractor around the farm and spot a sheep stuck in the fence. Kiwi jumps off and makes love to it. The Aussie says, "What are you doing?" Is that it? Oh, no, there is more to that. The Kiwi says, "Do you want to go?" So the Aussie sticks his head through the fence. Oh, dear. That was just you mentioning you're an Australian there. And I'm kind of wishing I hadn't read that, but thank you, Pete. New conspiracy news. If you're on this channel and don't like the like button, don't smash the like button, you'll be deported to Spain. We like that one.
Go on, Jackie. Look at that. Look at
well,
that.
Here we go. I bet you haven't heard this before. Last time I went to Australia, they asked me if I had a criminal record. I said I didn't realize it was mandatory anymore. Hey!
Ooh,
they love that. They love hearing that.
They turn you around if you said that.
What did you do after you got your visa? Got a girl pregnant, says Lee McGrady. I don't think he's recommending that, generally speaking, though. As maybe he is. Getting a girl pregnant must have saved you all the worry you usually have. Dear, oh dear. Come on, Pete. Lift it off the floor. Honestly, man. Surely having an Aussie teach English is a little antithetical. He's not holding back, is he? Challenge to that thought. Everyone who could afford and had access to the best healthcare when sick weren't afraid. That was, I guess, another reason why the politicians might have been partying. Johnson never been accused of retaining information, far too lazy to even consider. And you see, this is what happens when you put a theory forward and then many other theories emerge. Of course, that's part of being a human and considering things. And look, an interesting thought here. Cigarettes and alcohol once safe. There are notable advertisements, aren't there, of doctors with their favorite cigarette brands. I remember when all the TV celebrity doctors told us AstraZeneca was safe, but look at it now. Yeah, as of yesterday, it's a very different world. From the safe and effective days, that's for sure. Rebuke the WHO pandemic treatment. It's a global corporate takeover. This is one such theory, isn't it? An abolishment of the sovereignty of humanity. You are divine. Well, to me, the conspiracy theory of being divine, I'm happy to go with. Thank you very much for that reminder there, Squire. Initially, it made no difference how much money you had, unfortunately, medical professionals did a wonderful job to their own detriment, especially those who say Boris Johnson, including a Portuguese nurse in there. People should ask why Tedros Adhanom, not a medical doctor, by the way, is reluctant. That's a good put down, generally speaking, isn't it? It's reluctant. People say that about Dr. John Campbell, don't they? Is reluctant to return to Ethiopia. And when you look at his past there, I'm surprised why anyone would take advice from him. Solar life. I had COVID before the lockdown, as did my hubby. I've since gotten every vaccine and still stay out of crowds. I never want it again, says Erica. Speaking of celebrity TV doctors, Dr. Ranj has switched off his Twitter, couldn't take the heat. Like to give it, but couldn't take it. General purpose. It's so important to check medical licenses. There's a government portal in Portugal. That's useful information. Thank you. I find it hard to trust any of them these days. I think we might come back to that. And then we got on to talking about these chemtrails. Geoengineering and cloud seeding was a conspiracy theory. It's now an accepted fact. And sadly, we listened to silk suits, not cotton scrubs during COVID. It was a medical condition, but quickly became financial, and bankers called the shots. Follow the money, I think, as James said as well. Cloud seeding recently flooded Saudis, but it's just a conspiracy. Tell those politicians to seek war. Sorry, they already do that. To seek peace, not war, or there will be more lockdowns, military lockdowns, says the Squire. When you follow the money and who is funding these supported fact checkers, it becomes a bit more clear, says GP, the general purpose there. Perhaps, says Joao Ernesto, voice of reason here, we need to recognize conspiracy questing or conspiracy observations. Yeah, or just having a conversation about things. Yeah, an air of inquiry. Is a vapor trail Hot jets in cold air, an impossible answer. Lots of jets flying around in different directions and altitudes. And as you say, often the simplest answer is the correct one. Welcome to being a woman, guys. So we're getting another little insight here, Tony. This is what it's like to be a woman, apparently. It's not cancer, it's anxiety. The scientific method: observation, questions, hypothesis, testing, experimentation, and lastly, theory. And of course, within a context of that, constant change as well. The science is never settled, is it? According to the best scientific methods, I would have thought. There should be the same. There should be the same with conspiracies, don't you think? With that, observation, questions, hypothesis, testing, experimentation, and lastly, theory. Yes. I think it's quite hard to get a scientific project going, though, isn't it, into something that is written off already as a conspiracy theory. But I don't disagree with you there, John. Government, what? Just 2 more, Tony, or 3 more? No, 7 more, and we'll be back with you. Government spending for war is off the scale. Politicians and CEOs are richer than ever before. Well, that was a big thing, wasn't it? The wealth transfer was very interesting side effects of the lockdown and the pandemic and all that.
Yeah.
Big fan of the scientific method for discovering the truth about phenomena, and science is about figuring out what's going on, what's true for now. What's true for now, that's very good, isn't it? Therefore, if it's true now, it's not the truth, it's true now. Power, let's not start on that philosophical tangent. Power must always be checked to protect against tyranny. Well said, Squire. And general purpose, I was told POME meant prisoner of Mother England. POM. Oh, I see POMs that went over to Australia.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Michael Barton with a greeting for you. So into our last 15 minutes or so on this, I don't think we're going to come to any conclusions, but how lovely to have a pretty good-natured conversation about all of these things, Tony. That doesn't always happen, does it?
Was it Erica who said that she's had the vaccines?
Yeah.
Yeah, Erica, just something I want to say as well, because this is something that when I've had the conversation and I mentioned, see, also, look, I feel like I'm from a generation where you wouldn't talk to people about medical conditions.
Yeah, right, like your sexuality.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Or sexuality, politics, do you know what I mean? I don't think, like when I was a kid, I don't think I knew which way my mum voted.
Yes.
For example. But anyway, what I want to say, Erica, is because some people have said to me, they've gotten kind of aggressive about it to me about, well, I've had the vaccines. And I'm not saying that's what you're doing, because I don't think you are. But what I'm saying is, for me, it was just a choice. So I believe that the vaccines do reduce the risk of COVID. I do believe that. I think the evidence is pretty clear that they do. But I think the evidence is also pretty clear that there are side effect risks from the vaccines that we weren't told about. So what I'm saying is, I completely respect your choice, and I think it's fine. And I've even said that if I was a police officer or some other kind of frontline worker, I may have considered weighing up the risk and taking the vaccine. Do you know what I mean? But I'm not. I was able to keep myself away from other people. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, I'm not disparaging people who've taken the vaccine either.
Do what you want. Do
what you want. It's your choice. But what I'm saying is, I don't think it was fair that people were frightened into it, and I also believe people were forced into it. You know, and people were made into pariahs, like, oh, well, you're not allowed into McDonald's because you haven't got this
granny killer.
Oh my God, yeah. So that's what I don't like. But yeah, if you want to take the vaccine and it makes you feel safer, all power to you.
But why specifically that thing? That's what's always interested me with this.
Yeah.
If it was about public health, if it was about
it's like fluoride in the taps, isn't it? You know this one. It's like you say to people, again, this is another conspiracy theory, you know, about the fluoride in the taps,
that's right? Yes.
And people say, oh, don't you know that the government can care about your teeth? They don't want you to get tooth decay. And you're like,
well, if we just run a quick scientific analysis, the Brits have had, and I'm asking the Americans to be our kind of scientists here. If fluoride in the tap water helped your teeth, British people would not look the way they do dentally, would they?
Do you get what I mean? It's an example of what you're saying is why this specific thing.
Exactly. No,
why are the government?
Anything I feel strongly about in this last few years is why this. Because if it was about public health, and if it was about true care about people suffering and dying, there are many other things that were killing more people and have been forever that you could have locked down society to deal with, or
many other things, many things,
many more
things.
lethal.
Why do they care about your teeth and a bad flu?
Yes, right.
It's weird.
It's a good question. It's a good question, Tony.
It's weird,
Owen's here now as well. Good morning to you, Owen. Can you imagine a conspiracy theory of 194 member states of the World Health Organization are in the last 2 days of finalizing the world's first pandemic agreement? I think the House of Lords, fair play to them, have rejected this. Government's handing over power to the World Health Organization. 172. More lockdowns incoming, suspects Owen. And during COVID, the opposite of science was happening. I mean, you just had presidents, didn't you? Just being briefed and saying, take it, man, take it. Don't get a donut, take the jab. It's safe and effective. Official pronouncements were dictated, and we were all told not to question it. And fluoride and chlorine are components of mustard gas, both toxic, right?
Hey, well, you weren't just being told not to complain. You were told that if you complain, you're evil.
Yes.
And you're a killer, and you're you know what I mean? You don't deserve to be part of society.
Yes.
You know what I mean? They even had like pop stars saying people should be like put to death, and I heard the most amazing things during.
Well, it's all been videoed, hasn't it? These recordings are surfacing in certain parts of social media now, and Dr. Ranj is quite a good example, who was all over, influencing people to be vaccinated and behave in a certain way. It really wasn't, these are the pros and cons. And as a great doctor, I'm just telling you, I'm giving you, I'm informing your consent here. It was never about that, was it? Let's face it. It was about, you should do this. You should do this. If you don't, there are implications, and there should be more, and all that sort of stuff. And now those are sort of somewhat awkward. On, yesterday, the day when AstraZeneca withdrew its vaccination for whatever reason, some of those earlier videos were very uncomfortable viewing, I think, for some people as well. Keep in mind that the bad flu you mentioned overflowed hospitals and overwhelmed healthcare professionals. In some places it didn't, though, did it? I mean, that was the general narrative, that's what was happening, but that didn't always happen. And now, somebody was telling me yesterday, who was in a Portuguese hospital, that is overwhelmed. It's not COVID anymore. It's just that there are so many people now challenging the health system.
But also, no banana slugs. That bad flu I mentioned, overflowed hospitals and overwhelmed healthcare professionals, is not the same as saying the whole world should be locked down if you refuse to have this untested. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't just put that there without talking about the other things we're talking about.
Yes.
And sometimes bad flus over. Something I did at the time when you saw the NHS complaining about being overstretched, while somehow having time to do dancing TikToks all the way around the wards every 5 minutes. You
sound like a TV news presenter now.
I'm old enough to remember every single year of my whole life when the NHS complains about being overwhelmed, not paid enough, not having enough staff. I mean, the story didn't change, except it was COVID, and you know what I mean, or whatever. My issue is with the label bad flu. Why? It literally is a bad flu.
Yeah, okay. We can come back to that. I worked in a cafe.
Why is that an issue for you specifically? Please tell me. You can PM me on my YouTube channel. I'll take it further. Why do you have an issue with that label?
Right. I worked in a cafe in Portugal, and when we
had coronaviruses,
when we had these vaccine certificates that had to be shown on weekends, I wondered if the virus fucking off on holiday.
Remember in Portugal, the virus didn't come out until 1:30 in the afternoon. Do you remember
my favorites. One of my favorites.
Let's make us all go out at the same time and group together to go to Lidl.
I think we're having a. Do you know what? If it's nothing else, we are having a nice debrief here, right? No one's really to talk about this collectively, and it seems like where you might have feared becoming a social pariah or being deplatformed for saying such things 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Now you can talk.
Well, absolute tribe. You know what I mean? Do you remember that? 1:30 in the afternoon. Everyone's got to be back in bed by 1:30, children, or the virus might come out and bite you on the ass. It's like, what? It's ridiculous. You don't want us to gather together, but we've all got to come out at the same time, don't we?
Yes, and my absolute favorite. If you come to San Martino de Porto,
stop believing these people.
If you come to San Martino de Porto, which I hope you will, There's a little break in the seawall where you go from the marginal onto the beach, and there's a little break where you enter the beach. And thankfully, during this time, there was a green circle which showed you which part of the wall to walk onto the beach, and a red circle to allow people to process off the beach to the side of it, so that people weren't confused or getting anywhere near each other at the time on the beach in the open air. And I mean, it's easy to cherry pick some of the ridiculousness, and because there will be, won't there? That when you're dealing with public health, it's a very broad tool, isn't it? So there are going to be some howlers with that. I do understand that, but there were some terrible things that really didn't make any sense for sure. And now we can discuss them, hopefully, without being struck off. Also, if anyone asked to use a toilet, we had to let them in by law without a certificate. Science rocks. I know you're saying that tongue in cheek because that really is so not scientific. That was governmental, wasn't it? And they had to keep coming up with stuff. And I suppose there's another part to this, Tony. If we're not taking responsibility for our own lives, and you say to a bunch of remote, possibly fiscally influenceable politicians and public servants, tell us what to do, their 10 o'clock meeting is going to be, all these people are asking us what to do. We better come up with something, or we're not going to look like good leaders or responsible politicians. So they did have to come up with stuff, didn't they? Because people were begging for it.
Yeah. But I mean, I've said this before anyway. A lot of you see this in a lot of like laws, for example, that come about, and you've worked in big organizations. You know what happens? You go to a meeting and it's to make a decision, and after 2 hours, everyone just gets tired and just signs off on something. You know what I mean? And then next thing you know,
I remember that well. Yeah,
that's policy. That's policy. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And no one really knows how it happened, but everyone sticks to it because everyone on the front line is afraid to disobey.
And then you have to have another meeting.
Mandate.
You have to have another meeting to try and put that right, don't you? I mean, on it goes. Okay, this is fantastic, everybody. Well done for having a constructive conversation this morning. I would like to come on to give a healthcare provider's perspective, not today, of course. Thank you for that offer, Michael. We did have, obviously, panel discussions, and they were very interesting. In the days of the Will Thompson and Prosecco Peggy, remember those days? The issue with bad flu it implies it was a small thing. I don't think you're saying that, are you? I mean,
how does saying something is bad imply that it's small? You're reading something into it. This is what I'm saying. It's a kind of a projection thing. I've never said that it was a small thing. I recognize that it was dangerous. I recognize that it killed people. I recognize that it hospitalized a lot of people. Yeah, I've never not said those things. And that's the problem. Once you start talking about the problem with the vaccines, you get lumped into this granny killer, people who think that COVID is not. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, Tony.
I never said any of those things, so please don't project them onto me. That's what annoys me. Yeah. I never said those things.
Or just.
And I did not say just.
Okay, let's have a little timeout on that.
My goodness!
This is part and parcel of this sort of conversation, isn't it? There can be a bit of a trigger going on, and projections and all these sorts of things. I don't think you're minimising it, Tony. And
I know. Look, it killed Tim Brooke Taylor, and I've been a lifelong Goodies fan, so you know, I feel like I was personally touched by COVID, but yeah. I just think a lot of this is what happens is when you and you know, I was talking before about like this idea of a road. So I was saying like, let's say if you talk about something like chemtrails, the problem is you're then on the same road. And if you keep going down the road, there's someone on that road who thinks that the royal family are lizards.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
However,
once you're
on that road, you kind of get lumped in with everyone.
I've lived on that road. I know that road. I have a small concession along it, which I've lived in for many years. But what we can say here, because I believe in our community hugely here, a very high level of IQ, and what I hear is that James doesn't want it to be written off as just a bad flu, which we're happy to do. No one's saying that.
I get that. I get that.
And you're saying that you don't want to be lumped in, it's the next step for you is not that the royal family are lizards. That's that, and I hear you.
But also when I looked at the government's own statistics, and I'm not going to do it, but I could go back through my Facebook account because I posted a few of those things at the time.
Sure, you did.
Was I could see, because I had to make decisions for my sons as well. I've got teenage sons.
Yeah.
Right. And when I looked at the statistics, no bananas. You got to have no banana slugs. I'm gonna have to call you no banana slugs. Is that
James?
Like James. Okay. When I looked at the statistics, okay, it was clear to me that the risk of my sons becoming seriously ill or dying was extremely tiny.
Yes.
They were a fraction of a percent. So I made the decision, and on the other hand, and I know this is anecdotal, but my grandmother in her 80s got COVID and got over it 3 days later.
Yep.
In a care home that, and we weren't allowed to visit her,
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, what do you want me to do? I'm not going to wet the bed over this. I'd say I've done it again. I've said that. But I'm not wetting the bed over it. Sorry about that.
No, and you might acknowledge that that's kind of pushed you into an area of there's a sort of slightly more emotional aspect now, isn't there, to the conversation, because something.
Well, I had problems with some of my family were very, very angry with me, and they were like, and I'm like, well,
you don't just suddenly get over that, do you? That leaves an impression, and these are all the kind of wounds that are still present, and I actually think that having these sort of conversations can actually be quite helpful in that regard.
Because I agree with James. I don't think the discussion around the disease itself is a binary thing, but whether or not to have the vaccine is.
Well,
you either take it or you don't.
Or you're not, aren't you? Very interesting. Okay, we're 2 minutes past in. Thank you, everybody, for playing so nicely this morning. Very interesting indeed. Great job, Portuguesa Tony, as well. I love San Martino de Porto. I'm going to be near there working from the 15th in Caldas. Will you pop along and see us? Let's have a beer.
Polish is a nice place as well.
I'm not sure who you are. I probably you may PM me and let me know. That'd be wonderful. We'll pass on. What's this on now? Discredited cash cow vaccine would also not allow those cocktails of remdesivir and midazolam to be used on any loved ones. That's quite the Molotov to throw in at 3 minutes past 10. In the US, during the worst of the COVID, virtually every death was being attributed to COVID. Literally, someone would get run over if they tested positive. The death was included in the COVID stats. Thank you, Joanna, for that. Fresh air is bad. Get all hot, sweaty in your mask, that damp breeding ground for bacterial infection. You see, this is what I mean. I think there are a lot of wounds left from this. We were kind of herded into it with all sorts of things that we were unaccustomed to. And it's like, just in that way that I said, to me, the conspiracy theory thing is like being a 15-year-old in a home environment where your parents don't want to talk about the thing you just talked about and say, don't be so ridiculous, go to your room or stop talking about that. That's what being called a conspiracy theorist is like, I think. And I think we've got that generally in society. We've still got lots of people who've been treated like teenagers and weren't allowed to talk about things or have their own view about things. And we're all still running about the place with that still running. Meanwhile, all the people who called you that or made you behave in a certain way have moved on. They've moved on.
Of course they have.
Yeah,
of course they have. Yeah. Try saying sorry.
Okay, there you go.
You know what I mean? Go. We were wrong. And also, all I'm trying to say is, don't lump it doesn't matter what people's views. Everyone's entitled to have different views.
Yeah.
God, but you got to not. It's like it's to me, it's a real problem that happens at the moment, Carl. It's like say for example, if you say I see it in America, in particular, where they're so divided at the moment. It's like, if you're part of one team, then you must be all or nothing on that.
Yeah.
Did you see that meme I posted yesterday, which was that?
I believe I did.
About being in the center, and then
we didn't even get onto politics, did we? But yeah, okay. Do you want me to find that? And is it really politics? Because I think it also applies in COVID as well. Like I say, I think COVID divided people into teams. Yes. Well, it did. Of course it
did. COVID divided people into teams, didn't it?
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
And it's
Are
like
you
I say
talking
to
about
people,
the man who agrees with the media, universities, corporations, and Hollywood thinks he's part of the resistance? Was it that one?
oh well, there was that one as well. Yeah.
Well, I think we should move on. It is 3 minutes past 10. 5
Yeah.
minutes
Let's
past
go.
10
Let's
now.
go. Let's go.
And I think we have come back to a kind of what I was talking about before about the beauty of this community. You know, it was a test of our strength, I think, this morning, a test of our capabilities in all sorts of ways. And I think we did very, very well. And thank you, James, because he's at a disadvantage, of course, just as the media was used to manipulate and manage people. You know, we're in a privileged position here, aren't we, as being on the screen, and James is there trying to type to keep up and have his
Yeah. I get that. Maybe you know what, James, I'm going to apologize to you. Okay. You know, maybe I came down on you a bit hard there.
Yeah,
but you know what? There's a context, James, where, you know, like I had at least 2 people in my life who are people. They're both the kind of people who normally, when I'm about to make a big decision, I'll say, for example, what would my auntie do? What would my stepfather do? You know what I mean?
Interesting, yeah.
They're 2 people who I like when I'm about to make a big, or I'll even touch base with them.
Yes.
And both of them was in such strong opposition to me. And both of them were also, I felt like, repeating what I considered to be government gaslighting and government straw manning. They were like I felt like it was Boris Johnson talking to me from both of them.
I understand.
Do you know what I mean?
I do get how difficult that would have been.
And it was very difficult. It's very difficult for me, you know.
And a rite of passage moment. I mean, what you're talking about there is becoming, you're talking to your elders and you're having a sort of Disney moment, aren't you? When the elders you look up to might not have the answer that you feel.
Yeah. And I wasn't just making the decision for me. It was my children. So it was a big deal, you know. So yeah.
Thank you, Tony, for being here, for being so open, for wearing your heart on your sleeve like you do, and being a great laugh to be around and have fun with whilst we're talking about such complicated, complex, and difficult issues. So well played, great job. I think we deserve a cup of tea or coffee now, don't we?
Yes, we.
I thought you were about to break into song there. Always the bright side of life or something like that.
Well, I'm always, you know, playing these 80s songs because
sing us out then, if you will. Let's get, because we were talking about how awful 80s songs were and how predatory. Have things moved on since then?
Well, what I like about 80s songs is they always told a story. You know what I mean?
Take it away, Tony.
Let's see if you remember this one. It's full moon in the city and the night was young. Do you remember it?
No. Not yet.
It's a song I hadn't thought about for ages. Then I heard it on Radio Alcobaça, funnily enough, last time I was in Nazaré. Yeah. Oh. I was hungry for love. I was hungry for fun. I was hunting you down.
Oh.
And I was the bait when I saw you there. You remember it now?
No.
I
do want to see the chorus with you.
I didn't need to hesitate. This is the night. This is the night. This is the time. We've got to get it right. Oh, touch me, touch me. I wanna feel your body. Your heartbeat next to mine. Touch me, touch me now. And then it changed to tragedy. Do you remember?
No.
Quick as a flash, you disappeared into the night. Did I hurt you, boy? Didn't I treat you right? I like this bit. You made me feel so good, made me feel myself. Now I'm alone and you're with somebody else. One more part.
Go on then.
This is the night, the sing-along part. This is the night. This is the time. We got to get it right. Come on, sing with me. Touch me. Touch me. I want to feel your body. Your heartbeat next to mine. Touch me.
You touch me now. I want to feel your body. Now, I'm so sorry we ended on a note there of some middle-aged guys, some old guys singing about touch me, I want to feel your body. It was going so well, Tony, and then that happened. So let's see.
80s Samantha Fox, guys.
Samantha Fox. Going back to IQ, she wasn't known for her IQ, but that's a beautifully penned and presented.
Well, it just goes to show that You know, it's not all about IQ. Yeah,
really isn't. And look at him. He's
It really
looking
isn't.
he's looking up right top right, which tells you he's gone to his visual representation. This
my
might
visual.
have a great day, Tony. Take care. Bye for now.
Bye,
Touch me,
everybody.
touch
Bye-bye.
me. I wanna feel your body.